So again, apologies for the issues that we've had today. Maybe we can cut the first 10 minutes out of the recording that gets posted. So what we want to do is overview the program. We're going to talk about previously funded projects. I'm just going to repeat this section. I think we're good for now. And then hopefully we can stay on this wave. Applications, requirements, consideration, scoring, evaluation, and schedule. And then we're going to have time for Q&A. You can drop your questions into the chat, and then we've got folks in the room that are able to ask any questions they have. And then you can email us after the webinar in the next week or two if you have additional questions, and we'll post responses to those on the website for everybody. So with that, all right, so the initiative, again, the purpose of Blue, Green, Gray is to promote the planning and construction of green or sustainable infrastructure type projects in the region. We're looking for small projects. These are small, but they have innovative outcomes and can be scaled or replicated regionally. The replication is key. They're focused on blue for water or things related to a water location or experience, green for our green infrastructure, whether that's local flora, whether that's we've had some innovative tree projects with silvacells or whether and things of that nature. And then also gray would be our transportation infrastructure. Some of our more traditional projects that we typically fund in transportation. Again, we're looking for projects that speak in some way to all three of these elements. In our original, the first time we came out with this call, we had standard sidewalk supply or standard bike trails, and those are not the types of projects that we're looking for. We're looking for something a little bit more outside your normal transportation. Maybe that's rainwater harvesting, maybe that's native vegetation or solar lighting as a focus of your project, or maybe that's recycled trail materials, LED lighting, and other things of that nature, permeable pavement, etc. So from the last three calls, we've had a variety of things that rhyme with green bus stop design. Farmers Branch partnering with DART developed that. We've had micro detention pond sort of projects. We've had a DART station community garden where they had surplus land. We took a standard parking lot and turned it into bike parking that had planter boxes and other features of sustainable and recycled materials, biofiltrations, a whole host of things have been developed and tested out and then expanded in other locations. It's been a small pot of money in the past. We started small. We thought around 100 to 150,000 just to see if there was interest. This year, we're missing the slide that includes this, but this year we have $250,000 to award projects. It's not a lot because these are small pilots, but hopefully it's enough to show demonstration projects and then kind of field truth some ideas that communities may have. So we're looking for projects that either maybe they're a feasibility stage, it's the planning stage, or you may have something that's ready to go for construction and there's a many partners involved. The guidelines for the project, for a pilot construction project, or other entities can use. We're hoping a deliverable is something that maybe you're testing a specific site, maybe you're looking at a new technology or process, or you're developing a document that outlines potential solutions or something that you want to apply additional dollars to later. So these are sort of seed ideas to try things out that maybe otherwise you couldn't get funding for. So 2021, I mentioned that was our last call. There was a heavier water focus, I believe, thinking about inlet floatable filters, thinking UTA came in as one of the partners with biofiltration swells, and then a design project in an environmental justice area in Dallas, looking at community gardens, partnering again with the university, and creating sort of green space and also to address some stormwater flooding within the area. So with that, very high level, kind of the impetus behind the program. And actually it was someone whose career had been spent in the water world, if you will, that came to us in transportation and said, we need to break down our silos, do more of this together, kind of started all of this. And so I think hopefully we think there's a home for this in transportation to work together. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Shawn Conrad, who's a program manager in sustainable development. And she's going to go over sort of other big picture questions and that we're trying to answer, and also how the application process will work. Shawn?
Okay, project considerations. So just some things to think about as you're developing a project, thinking about a project to apply for this funding program. Who will the project partners be? So really think about who's going to be on your team and what roles that they will have so that you can understand how all the different pieces work together. And then making sure that all those partners are on board with the proposal, they're aware of the proposal, they buy off in the proposal, comfortable with the proposal, and especially if it's a partner that's going to be implementing that project, say it's a construction project and you've got to have a city implement that project, we want to make sure that they're aware of that and they are all good with it. And when you submit your application. What will the roles of the project partners and team members be? How can the project be replicated in the region? Because as Karla mentioned, that's one of the big goals of this program. So think about how that could happen. Like, could you develop a checklist or some kind of process or a document that other or some kind of resource that other entities in the region could take this great idea that you have and replicate it for the improvement across the region of these things. Who will be responsible for long-term maintenance and operations? And this is particularly important if you're working with a local government around some kind of installation or construction project. Maintenance is always a concern. We want to make sure that these things stay functioning well and looking good over a long period of time. So again, it's just making sure those conversations are happening with whoever those agencies are so that everybody is on board with any requirements. And then what's the project timeline? So that's really important, and particularly when your project activities are going to start, because as I'll talk about a little bit more in a second, typically our funding will not be available for about 6 months because we have to go through a contracting process. So I'll talk about that more in a second here. So some other program roles and some other considerations to think about. Projects and programs must be located on a public right-of-way or on public property. And that's just because this is public money, so we have to have a public benefit. That's part of the rule. And also in the 12 county metropolitan planning area, if you're not familiar with where all the 12 counties are, there is a map linked on our website, which you can see at the bottom there, that shows the 12 county area. Typically, so getting into the timing part of it, so as I mentioned, we need about 6 months to, after funds are awarded, to develop the contract, do processing, because after the funds are awarded, we work with you all to develop a contract and do some negotiations to have a land and a final scope of work and a final contract end date that works for you all in the project. And meets our requirements. So that takes some time. Then we have to get that approved and approved by our boards. So so that's what I was kind of alluding to before is if you have item or tasks on your project that really need to be done in the first 6 months, like in the next 6 months from now, or from the time you submit your application, that might not be a great fit to include in this project, but you could include other tasks or other activities that happen through that time period. And that's why we have this also that work started before a contract is executed is not eligible for reimbursement. And just also to make it clear, it's not a grant, so this is reimbursement only. And as part of that contracting process, we'll work with you how many invoices would need to be submitted during the grant period for the reimbursement. So we'll work on all that timing. We reserve the right to remove funding on any work that is completed prior to the contract execution. So if you have tasks that are in your proposal that say to conduct a community meeting and you determine that you need to do that sooner before the funds are awarded, then we reserve the right to take off any funding that would have gone to that community meeting and remove that from the total project. So And then as far as procurement, if you already gone through a process of procurement for a contractor or a consultant or other assistants, you would put that into your application as part of your project team. And, if the funding, assuming the funding was awarded, that would be fine. If you need to hire somebody after that point, then that procurement process would have to follow COG and state procurement requirements. That can take a little bit of time, so that's something to think about as you're thinking about your project schedule. Another consideration is the project innovative? So what do we mean by innovative? So we're thinking about things that are new, not previously tested, or combining new elements in a different way, as Karla mentioned. This program is not really interested in just like your standard sidewalk or trail projects, but it's combining things in a new way, an innovative way, so that for example, we've got a new water recapture system and treatment on a bridge over a stream in a natural area. So that's something that is combining things in a way that's not typically done, and that combines those blue, green, gray elements that we're talking about. Or another example is porous pavement that serves as water reclamation filter system on trails or parking lots in the park system. So those are just a couple of examples. There's a ton of different ways that these numbers can be combined in an innovative way, but we're just trying to give you an idea of what that might look like. And kind of, excuse me, not innovative submittals, these would be more conventional standard treatments and approaches. So for example, as we mentioned before, construction of just like your standard trail or sidewalk. As Karla mentioned, we've got other programs to fund those types of projects. Funding for lighting in a neighborhood, again, that's pretty standard for most sidewalk, street construction projects. And then purchase of trees for conservation or wetlands protection, again, is a pretty standard approach. So application submittals, and one thing I wanted to mention here also that is that we have a total of $250,000 available for this call for projects, and there is no match requirement. So that is a nice benefit. One thing I wanted to mention is we had an email that went out announcing the call. It mentioned that there was a $75,000 maximum funding award. That is not accurate. We will be looking at funding approximately 3 awards. If that were divided up equally, it would be around 83,000 if you want to think of it that way. But we're not giving a hard figure on a maximum or a specific funding award. So this is just what we've done and typically we would anticipate, probably in this call we would fund projects. Materials are available on our website. Eligible applicants are very broad. Universities, cities, counties, transit authorities, private firms, nonprofits, school districts, individuals. So really a lot of opportunity for different types of activities there, but also underscores the importance of working with whoever the implementing agency is, particularly if you are a nonprofit or an individual or a school that is not typically working with cities already. Really important to loop them in and make sure you've got them on board if it's a project that needs to be implemented by a city or a local government. Again, projects must be located on public land or public right of way in the 12 county metropolitan planning area. And then applicants can submit more than one funding application. We've got a question in the application about if you're submitting more than one, can you rank those for us? What's most important for you if you're submitting 3 of them? What's the top application you're most interested in getting funded? That will help us out. Hard copy applications and electronic versions on a USB are due here in the office in hand at 5 o'clock on August 16th. That's a hard deadline. We'll have somebody collecting those on the first floor here, so it won't be hard for you to find where that needs to go. We'll timestamp them. So really important. Anything that comes after that. Okay, other submittal requirements. Let's just kind of about the application. I'm just making sure that you answer all the questions in the funding application completely. In the past, we've done like a narrative type of proposal. This time, we're doing a fillable PDF with questions, and hopefully that will help streamline everybody and really make it clear what we're looking for. So that will be, so that's posted on our website now. And then we also have a budget that's required with a budget template to fill out. It's a very simple budget. We ask that you attach a project map if that's applicable. Geographic location that we need to show on a map, and if the activities that you're doing and showing that on a map would be really super helpful. Resume for each team member, and then if you are working with a public sector organization, we were asking for a concurrence letter, and this gets back to making sure that any public sector organization that you're working with is on board and is aware of this and knows that it's coming down the line if the project gets awarded. And then finally, if it is a project where you need access to a site, say, for example, railroad right of way or something along those lines, or public property that is closed off for any reason, then we'd ask that you coordinate with the project site owner. And we also have in the application as well attaching a letter just verifying that you'll be able to get access to that area. And then any other supporting documentation you would like to attach, feel free. Just generally what the application looks like, it's got general project information, point of contact, description of the project or the program or the idea that you're proposing, the implementing organization, what the funding request is, the budget. It's a pretty straightforward application, so hopefully it's fairly clear, but of course we're always available if you have any questions. And that's just an image of what the budget template looks like over there. Okay, I am going to hand it over to Syndee. She is going to talk about our selection criteria and our schedule, and then we'll have lots of time for questions.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Syndee Mangini, and I'm assisting Shawn, Karla, and Devia with this Blue Green Gray funding program. So now I'll talk a little bit about our selection criteria and go over the overarching categories, as well as kind of what we're looking for and how we score each of those categories. So to start, we're looking at team qualifications. So like Shawn mentioned, you'll typically submit a resume, as well as maybe a list of previous experience you have with similar projects. And we'll evaluate the mix of experience and expertise your team has for this project. We'll also be looking at impact. So what are the long-term effects of your project? Does it have an impact to potentially change future designs and standards? Is there an educational component? Does it incorporate, native vegetation? So we're kind of assessing both the infrastructure impact as well as kind of the long-term, maybe like soft skill educational component impact. We also have innovation and significance. So does this shift current designs and practices by using uncommon approaches or designs and methodologies? How well will your project include the three elements of water, environmental, and transportation infrastructure? Like Shawn mentioned earlier, does it combine those elements in a new innovative way? That's kind of what we're getting at with the innovation and significance. And then we also have applicability, adaptability, transferability, and practicality. That might take a minute to digest. But can the project, with this one, we're kind of getting at whether the project's realistic, can it be scaled? Can another community come along and pick up your project and replicate it in their own community to meet their needs? And this is kind of our main mission of this program, so we score that one pretty heavily. We also have collaboration with various stakeholders. So are you working with outside entities? Kind of the more the merrier. Do you have buy-in from those entities is what we're looking at for that one. And then we have some other considerations that aren't formally scored, but we do use them in a case of kind of a tiebreaker situation where we'll look at equity and environmental justice, the geographic distribution. Of course, we want to be able to fund projects throughout the region rather than focusing on one city alone. And then the diversity of disciplines. So is your team made up of folks just from different entities and organizations? And to wrap up here, I'll go over the schedule. So our call for applications officially opened on Monday, July 15th. We're currently at the pre-application workshop. And then we, after this, we'll open kind of an FAQ period where you're welcome to submit questions to us that we'll then post on our website. During this time as well, we'll also offer preliminary application reviews. So if you'd like to schedule a meeting with us to talk about what you have, see if it fits within our scoring criteria and our eligibility requirements, you're welcome to email us to schedule that meeting. And then applications will be due at 5 p.m. on August 16th. After that, we'll be reviewing them in-house. We have a scoring committee that is made up of a lot of different COG team members. And we'll take September to look over everything and score it. And then we'll recommend our projects to our boards, STAC and RTC, in the October-November timeframe. And then after that, we'll hopefully be able to announce the awarded projects. And then we'll get your projects going. So with that, I think we'll open it up for Q&A, which Shawn will lead. So thank you.
Okay, I think I'm going to take questions in the room first, and then we'll go on the chat. If you ask me anything, I'm not quite sure about your question, I'll go and, chat with whoever our subject matter expert here is here at COG. I'll get back to you promptly in the next couple of days. And then after the August 1st timeframe that we have for submitting questions, we'll also post all of the questions that we've gotten on the website with their answers. So you'll be able to see everything. So any questions from people in the room today? Yes.
I have multiple demonstration sites and one of them is at a community college. Is a community college a public right of way location? So one is in a park and I'm sure that's public right of way. And one of them is at a Dallas Community College.
I think it would depend on what, is it a private college or a public college?
It's Dallas County Colleges.
Okay, yeah, then I think you'd be good. As long as it is in the public roadway, right of way, or public part of that community college.
So
I mean,
it is a
it is
waterway?
public property, it should be okay.
If it's a waterway,
Oh, waterway, yes.
okay.
Who maintains and controls it?
Maybe that would be DCURD, the city of Irving.
I think you'd want all of them on your project team with letters of support,
Okay, how about,
and who would end up being the ultimate operator and maintainer of it.
okay. And then can I apply for two different sites, same project? Similar
Yes.
Project? I have a couple more questions.
You may want to make a note in your budget, though, on how much for each location.
Oh.
That would be helpful.
Are you thinking of applying two different applications or one application with two sites?
Similar activities, different sites.
In one application?
Right, so
Okay,
it's
okay.
it's an EPA project. And the EPA grant funding excludes working with this, with this community. Like excludes funding, like it says I have to seek other funding for activities with students, Dallas colleges, any kind of underserved population that I'm working with, which is a requirement. So since it's that, is it still eligible?
Yeah, that should be.
And laboratory testing, would that be covered?
Yeah.
Laboratory testing? And if there's any preferred laboratories that you guys go to, or?
No, we don't have any, we don't have a dog in that fight.
Okay, and laboratory testing equipment? Like
Equipment,
probes?
I don't think we include, right?
Typically not for the purchase of equipment, the lease of equipment, but not the purchase of assets. Because
Okay.
people try to throw in, I need to buy a truck for this project or computers or things like that. So typically not the capital expenditures.
Okay, so rental is okay,
Yep.
and just a budget on the laboratory analysis is fine. Okay, thank you.
I was curious if there's anything that has been done in the past. So there's some great examples here. You can see applying anywhere, with the purpose of something being able to be replicated across the region. Is there anything that has been done before, like the the innovative bike parking or, permeable pavement that we shouldn't propose because it's already been demonstrated?
We had a bike parking project. I mean, this doesn't mean you couldn't propose something like
Okay.
this, but we had a bike parking project in DeBellum that converted standard parking spots into bike parking and seating. So that's the only thing we've had in the bike parking room.
Okay. Just curious if we come up with something that was listed here, applied in our area, if
Okay.
that's okay. All right.
Is the project required to have an educational component, or that's just one of
It's-
the impact?
It's not required, but it can't hurt. So it's just considerations. We held kind of a session a couple of years ago when we got people together who had applied for these or were interested in this program, environmental stakeholders and things. That was one of the things that they're real interested in, is these projects having an education component. So we're including that as a consideration, not a requirement. Anyone else in the room? Question? What you do, just raise your hand.
There are some questions in the chat.
Yes, let's go ahead.
I think,
Will it show the?
yeah, we can. Um,
Or if you want to call them up.
Yeah, either way. It's not easier just to call them out. Maybe if Syndee, if you want to. Yeah, well,
And read off the questions.
yeah. The first question we have, I think, was regarding if community colleges are eligible for this funding, and they are. The second is, will the grants team consider providing partial awards?
I think that we would consider that.
Okay. Same, similar question, but can this grant program fund smaller portions of a larger project? Okay. Yeah, I'm right there where your mouse is, so.
Okay, so jumping off of this question, I think I may have the same one. Small portions of the project, okay.
Yeah.
Does the application need to or must have a public agency agreement in place to trial or implement the proposed technology during the application process?
You want me to take that one?
Sure, I'm trying to unpack that a little bit.
So what I think you're asking is, do you have to have a public agency agreement in place? You don't have to have an agreement, but we will want, if the project is being tested on land, property, a location, which 90% of what I can think of what people would do is, it has to be within public right of way. So we've had applications before where they talked to a city. The city thought it was a good idea. They said the city's on board. We awarded a project and the city knew nothing about the project, that it had been funded. And now the city had to maintain and operate, and there were long-term implications to that. So ultimately, the use of funds within public right of way will require you to have a city or local government or government entity on board to test out in that location, most likely, how most of these are structured. So it doesn't have to be a written agreement in place, but the letter of support from the jurisdiction of where you're implementing it will be needed. Is that fair to say?
Yep.
Okay.
Do you have a list of previously funded or awarded projects? Yes, they are on our website. Syndee, could you put the website in the chat?
Yeah.
And then also, not only a list of them, but the final reports and deliverables and things that came out of those projects are there as well. There's only one project there that's still in progress, so, but that's also listed there.
Put it in the chat.
Grace, very good. I missed this earlier, but how are the sites selected? We don't select sites, so it's because these applications can be a program, they can be an evaluation of a feasibility study, basically. They can be testing things. They can also be installation or construction. So installation or construction would be in a specific site, most likely. So in that case, that's something that you would propose in your application. And then we would evaluate that. Hopefully I answered that question, but if not, please follow up. Did you mention, there will be 3 awards given? What I was trying to say there is, we have $250,000 available. Most likely, we will fund 3 projects. It is possible that we fund less or more, but historically, we've done 3 projects. Is there a maximum indirect cost percentage?
So indirect cost is typically evaluated by our fiscal management team, and there is a reasonableness added to it. But we've worked with many private sector firms, universities, and individuals, and there are thresholds. If you need more specific information on that, you could let us know. You can propose something, and then it may be part of the negotiations.
Is there a partner portal where an applicant can reach out to any county or potential public agency within NCT COG? As far as I know, we do not have that resource. So it will be up to you all to reach out to project partners and coordinate and developing your application. Would COG be able to help us fund potential cities that may be interested in our proposed smart sensor solution? Potential cities, and I'm getting a little stuck on that one. Maybe if that person could unmute and maybe give us a little more information on what you're asking there, that would be great.
Sure, thank you. Essentially, we have a smart sensor solution that enables a city to know the infrastructure of either a dam or any kind of a water holding body in a predictive manner. So we need to know, or the intent is to know, if NTCOG would be able to connect us to such a city or a county who would be interested in such a solution, could try it out there.
I don't think that's something we can assist with because just out of a matter of fairness, we aren't able to provide that level of assistance in developing proposals.
You could put his contact information in the chat, and if there are cities here today that might be interested, they could reach out.
Thank you.
Okay. Could a 3-zone riparian enhancement through native planting on city parkland be considered? So this has an environmental component and water component. I think you would just have to think about what the transportation component would be there.
And you gave an example of just planting trees is not technically what we're looking for. So there's got to be some other elements, perhaps.
The other thing that springs up too is when you're thinking about trails, we can only fund stuff that's transportation. So a lot of trails are purely recreational. So if it's a trail that people could potentially be using to connect point A to point B and using that to travel to get to destinations or services, or they're using it, could potentially at least use it to commute on. That's something we would consider. If it's a purely recreational trail, like people are just going out there for fun and it's kind of like just on that particular park and not connecting to other things, that wouldn't be suitable for this funding. Okay. Is there a likelihood of this program? Is there a likelihood of this program having a phase 2 to extend the impact to larger areas or counties? We can't go outside the metropolitan planning area, the 12 counties that I referenced earlier. I'm not sure if the person who's asking the question is interested in a phase 2 of their specific project or a phase 2 of this program. So if you wanted to unmute, you could ask, you could clarify that.
It is about the same project, so the initial implementation is going to be localized to a specific location. The intent of the question is to see if the same solution could be deployed at multiple places, cities and counties, to essentially enhance the impact of the solution in phase 2.
Gotcha.
It's currently not structured like that. We don't have a phase two approved by our Regional Transportation Council, our funding body. But I would never say never. We would just have to think through how that would work and talk to our director and our policy officials.
We could choose a site to add a permeable pavement trail where a gap is currently on the trail system. I think, one thing to think about there with the permeable pavement, you've kind of got the water aspect because we're talking about stormwater runoff, and then there's the environmental component. I think the thing you would have to think about is, again, is this trail a recreational trail or be considered a transportation route?
Shawn, if I can also mention, we're going to open up a call for projects before the end of the year for $50 million for trail construction and sidewalks and a whole host of active transportation infrastructure. So if you have trail construction, 250,000 will probably not build you a trail or much of a trail. It might not, probably won't even build you a curb cut.
80,000
So
will be
I
that.
would strongly recommend waiting for, I believe it's around November that we're gonna open up a new call for projects for our transportation alternative programs.
Thanks, Karla.
Yeah.
Those all the questions? All right. Any other questions from those at home? If you'd like to unmute, speak now. I'm not going to say forever hold your peace because you can reach out to us anytime, email us with questions. And as we mentioned, I want to reiterate too, we've got through August 1st to receive your questions. We also are offering pre-application meetings if you would like to meet with us and review the proposal that you would like to submit. We're able to do that through August 1st as well. And you can just email me. We have our contacts on the last slide, I believe, and we can do that. So any other questions from anyone at home? You just unmute if you have a question, jump in there. Anybody in the room? Okay. Sounds good. Well, there's our contacts. Yeah, feel free to email me if you have any questions. I'm sure other things are going to crop up. So from there, and again, we can meet with you to discuss.
Someone in the chat did ask if projects needed to be shovel ready.
Shovel ready. I don't think so. Not necessarily, no. That's not a big focus of this program. Yes.
When rolling this out, of course, it needs, have like pre-demonstration projects existing that won't count, right? If it's not on site to where we want to apply it, but it's developed kind of off-site, but still is like a working demonstration.
So tell me more. So you're talking about a demonstration that's already happened or is going
No, that will happen.
Will happen.
So as I see it, the grant funding won't become available for about a year from now.
6 months-ish, yeah.
Although if you determine it in December,
I see what you're saying.
and it
Yeah,
takes
you're
6
right.
more months.
Correct, 6 months from award, yeah.
Right, so that'll be about a year from now.
Yep.
So if I develop programs that like are demonstrations of what we'd like to do with this funding, but they're not on site.
Okay.
But they need to be moved there, or they need to be like folded out, reproduced, based upon this demonstration of what we like to do.
Mhm.
Is that okay?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, the fact that you've done a demonstration before is fine, as long as what you're proposing in your actual proposal, you're not like starting on that work before we get the contract awarded. And the location, it's up to you. Answer your question. Okay. All right. Well, we're here to help. Email anytime and we'll get back to you promptly because I know time is of the essence with this thing. Got about a month for Submittals. You all.
Thanks, Shawn.
The chat is December when awards will be decided.
Yes, December.
Put that schedule back up.
Yeah.
You may want to explain how S-Tax when they'll first see it.
Yeah, so to the person who asked that question, anyone else who's interested, this will go to our Surface Transportation Technical Committee in October. They're kind of the first line for recommending projects, and then to Regional Transportation Council in November. And then we'll announce the awarded projects in December. So it just has to go through a committee process, so after we've, and what we'll be doing at those committee meetings is recommending to them, after we've reviewed all the applications and evaluated them, we'll be recommending to STEC and RTC which projects we would like to have funded. And then they will hopefully sign off on those, and in December, we'll be able to announce awards. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.